Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be discussing the tragic story of John O'Neill as he relates to September 11th, 2001. O'Neill worked as a high-ranking FBI counterterrorism expert who specialized in tracking al-Qaeda and specifically Osama bin Laden throughout the 1990s. He was one of the earliest and most vocal voices warning against a potential bin Laden attack in the United States in the late 1990s. He led investigations into earlier al-Qaeda-linked accidents, including the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, along with the USS Cole bombing in 2000. He joined the FBI in the 1970s and steadily rose through the ranks, quickly becoming FBI's top expert. In the 1990s, O'Neill grew increasingly frustrated with the constant infighting and the lack of information sharing between intelligence agencies in regards to the FBI and the CIA in specific, something that foreshadows the intelligence problems between the two agencies leading up to September 11th, as both the FBI and CIA were tracking several hijackers in the United States but didn't share intelligence on them. O'Neill also believed correctly that the CIA was withholding information on two hijackers within the United States that had entered the US in 2000 that he was previously tracking. O'Neill had initially a big role in the investigation of the USS Cole, which happened in October of 2000, just a little under a year before 9/11 in Yemen. A small boat that was laced with explosives rammed into the side of the USS Cole as it was refueling that cost 17 American sailors their lives. The initial investigations suspected that al-Qaeda was to blame, hence O'Neill's presence. However, when O'Neill flew to Yemen, the U.S. ambassador refused to cooperate with him, and it got so ugly that she effectively barred O'Neill from Yemen, pulling him off the USS Cole investigation, which didn't make any sense considering his expertise. Colleagues often described O'Neill as brash and intense, but also extremely effective at doing his job. He clashed with superiors and then eventually left the FBI in the summer of 2001, feeling stonewalled in his efforts to prevent a potential al-Qaeda attack. In the summer of 2001, O'Neill went to a press conference and left his briefcase unattended, which reportedly lasted around 90 minutes. The press conference was in Tampa, and the briefcase contained documents. However, none were compromised. Still, the incident triggered an internal investigation and became a convenient excuse for pressure to mount regarding O'Neill's potential exit. O'Neill eventually resigned in August of 2001 after the briefcase incident and also being exhausted from the lack of cooperation within the government as it relates to al-Qaeda. In an unfortunate twist, in late August of 2001, after resigning from his job as a counterterrorism expert, he took a job as the head of security for the World Trade Center managed by the Port Authority of New York. He started the job in late August of 2001 and joked with friends that al-Qaeda would likely target the World Trade Center again, something that he had long feared. O'Neill was quoted as saying, just days after taking the job at the World Trade Center complex, that we're due, and we're due for something big. On September 11th, O'Neill was in the South Tower at the time. The North Tower got hit first, and he started helping with the initial evacuation efforts of the South Tower. He was last seen re-entering the South Tower to help others evacuate. He eventually died when the building collapsed just before 10 a.m., and his body was recovered in the ruins. So just to put all of this into perspective, O'Neill was aware of al-Qaeda, bin Laden, and the potential threat that they posed in relation to an attack on U.S. soil. He repeatedly issued warnings, but was eventually pushed out months before September 11th, only to take a job working within the Twin Towers, dying in the very scenario he tried to prevent. According to his colleagues, he even warned the Port Authority security officers in the late 1990s that the next big attack would be the Twin Towers, and it makes sense considering they targeted the towers in 1993 setting off a bomb in the parking garage beneath the North Tower, hoping to trigger the North Tower potentially collapsing onto the South Tower. That, of course, did not work. O'Neill's story is one of extreme unfortunate coincidence and also highlights the significant issues within the FBI and the CIA as it pertains to the supposed threat level of Al-Qaeda and how seriously it was treated. The August 6th briefing that George W. Bush received at his ranch in Texas underlines that exact point. The briefing reportedly warned that the time was approaching for a major attack. It said that something big was imminent, possibly within the next days or weeks. That was September 6th in a briefing. Pretty crazy. There was also an FBI agent in Phoenix that had written the Phoenix Memo. This happened a few months before 9/11 in July of 2001, warning that Osama bin Laden was sending operatives to the United States to train at civilian flight schools. Ken Williams was the agent's name. He didn't have the full story, but he had more than enough to surmise that this activity was happening, and both the CIA and FBI had been tracking several hijackers within the United States. The CIA originally began tracking two of the hijackers. They would be classified as the muscle hijackers in early 2001, and the FBI picked up on those same hijackers in mid-2001. Obviously, when something as catastrophic as September 11th happens, there's going to be a lot of revisionist history and a lot of missed opportunities by intelligence agencies. Whether or not the FBI stonewalling O'Neill had an effect on September 11th happening, it certainly had an effect on his presence within the Twin Towers as head security. They basically forced him out because he was obsessed with Al-Qaeda, only for him to die indirectly at the hands of Al-Qaeda.